Big discussion of the day. It is about football, but we have in studio one Ludwig Aduda Omondi, the man who's done it, who has signed the letters, who has had correspondences with FIFA regarding all this. Ludwig, karibu sana to the studio.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody.
Karibu sana. So Ludwig is going to help break this down, and at this point, I want to state that we invited the current federation to come and be part of this discussion, but they sent no representative. But nonetheless, this discussion will continue. Ladies and gentlemen, before Ludwig comes in, we're basically staring at a can of worms. Yeah? The head coach of the national team hasn't been paid now for 8 months. Chitera. Maybe in 1 minute, what do you make of that?
I raised it last week. Arocho really delved into it, that we are having a coach who is a tourist, but again, tourists are not paid. Probably, maybe that is why Firat is not paid. Let me tell you that any sporting nation, any footballing nation will invest in their coach. Look at what Tanzania has done. Their coach salary is equivalent to a minister in government. He has seen a team probably will represent the East African region. No other team is going for AFCON next year. So, sports minister, the government should take this up immediately. And I thank Ababu Namwamba, the CS Sports, really wanting to help this situation. But again, there is no contract from FKF.
Right there, Ludwig, that's the can of worms, so to speak. We have a coach who is contracted. He hasn't been paid for 8 months. The sports CS says, look, we haven't gotten that contract from the federation. Your thoughts on that, Ludwig?
Well, first and foremost, I think the coach is an employee of the federation. It is therefore the responsibility of the federation to work in tandem with the ministry charged with overseeing sporting activities in the country. Because if we want the coach to be paid, as is the norm, by the government, because he is a head coach of the national team, then the two bodies or institutions must work in tandem. I mean, there must be some agreement, because it is not small change to pay the coach. So I think if we are continuing with Firat as our head coach, then there must be an amicable understanding and a resolution to this impasse of his dues not having been paid for the last 8 months or so. But probably that in itself is not a reason for not performing.
But Ludwig, again, you sat on that very seat as the FKF CEO years back. Could you take us, how do things operate? Because ideally under the Sports Act 2013, the government through the Sport Ministry would basically pay the national team coach wages. But here we have a situation where CS Namwamba is saying FKF hasn't furnished us with a copy of that contract. Does that hold water? Are we seeing games being played here, Ludwig?
Yeah, but I think that is why I've mentioned earlier on that both the federation as the employer of the coach and the Ministry of Sports, under which the funds that ought to be used to clear the salaries and allowances, must work in tandem, because you cannot expect the ministry to pay for something that they are not part and parcel of. I mean, there must be ownership, because he is whoever the occupant of the position. This time it is Firat, but next time probably it's going to be somebody else, But we must have an understanding that when it comes to the national team coaches, not just for football. I believe if we want to develop and have good results, then we need to have a governmental policy on how to develop sports, particularly with respect to the national teams.
Arocho, you were nodding as Mondi was making his remarks. Maybe you can come in. What do you make of this entire series?
Well, I wish I'll be given slightly more time because I want to take you back. I'm looking at all this as design. And I'm sorry, I might be very unpopular on this set. But look at what has been happening. Look at how Bobby Robinson was sacked. Who employed Robinson? Williamson, sorry. Who employed Williamson? He came during Nyamoya's tenure. Who did he take to court? The regime that came after Sam Nyamoya. Look at what happened to Adele. Who employed Adele? Another regime. Who did he take to court? The regime that came after. I'm looking at, and once again I'm saying with all due respect to the federations, I'm looking at some design. I'll employ you, I will not pay you, then I will take to court the regime that comes in. And this is, for me, I'm looking at Firat not being paid. Then once Firat, this regime is gone, because an election is coming next year, I will take the regime that comes into court. And normally, the contract that these coaches normally have is only seen in court. Nobody else sees this contract. And that's why when we went to court with Adele Amrouche at FIFA, that's when everybody saw that contract. How sure are we that contract was even existing? That is where I have a problem with this. And just a moment.
Right.
And that's why you see Adele Amrouche was paid 102 million. That is a lot of money, guys. 102 million. And why was Adele paid 102 million? Initially, FIFA gave Adele Amrouche 52 million. The same federation went for an appeal. We lost the appeal. 60 million was added to that amount. I'm looking at a design.
So you think this all by design?
It is just a design.
And maybe Aduda will be in that in that regime.
Just a moment. I need to make a point.
Yes, make it before Aduda comes.
Yeah, before you come.
If he will be in the regime, how will he handle it?
The hypothetical question that he is asking, then the question should be, if this is a scheme, who is playing it? Because if it has been played to success, then there must be collusion between federation and government. But let me ask this question, with all due respect to the minister, Ababu Namwamba, the CS. He came out and said that he has not seen the contract between Firat and Federation, or Kenya, for that matter. And I'm asking this question, how powerful is FKF to an extent that when Ababu wants to see a contract, he can see it?
But not,
that's the first question, Shidera.
Not powerful.
Then secondly,
not powerful. The point is, the point is independence. Remember, the government should not interfere.
But no, that's not interference. Get me right. That's not interference, because the coach is supposed to be paid by the government. He is hired by the federation because as a procedural matter. You understand?
Have you seen?
This is the question. How comes FKF are so big to an extent they cannot produce it? Number two,
they are big.
Ababu said he has met the coach himself. I want to believe when there's a contract between an employee and employer, the employee retains a copy of their contract. How comes he has not seen it from Firat himself? We are not honest to Kenyans, and I think we are not honest because really, if we want to pay him, he will be paid. And it's a shame, like you alluded to, the story of Williamson, the story of Adele. Why we want to lose all this money? And we're talking about a time when we are heading to the World Cup qualifiers. This is a shame. It's a national shame.
Before Aduda comes
Aduda, because of time, Arocho, let's go to Ludwig. Ludwig, what do you make of this mess? The panelists believe it could be by design. Could that be the case, and how do we get out of this conundrum?
Well, first and foremost, it's not a question of the next regime, because we have an institution. And Kenyans need to stop this the illusion that the respective heads at any given time are synonymous to the institution. Like for now, FKF is not synonymous to Nick Mwendwa. Neither is Nick Mwendwa synonymous to FKF. Now the coach is an employee of the institution known as Football Kenya Federation. So what I'm saying is, and I would like to repeat, that whoever is at the helm of the leadership of the federation, as at the time, needs to work in tandem with the ministry in charge of sports, because it is the responsibility of the government through the Ministry of Sports to ensure that they fund the national team's activities and personnel. That includes, ensuring that when our national teams are preparing to go and participate in the international competitions, it is the responsibility of the government, through the coordination of the federation. Now, in this particular aspect, we have what is called overdue payables, right? So it's not a question of a regime, Fred Arocho.
The reason why I brought in the regime.
Let me finish.
You'll respond.
What happens is that there are contractual obligations which must be met, whether by the coach or by the players, failure of which there are certain specified, regulations by FIFA that require that in an event that you have overdue payables, then the debtor, who in this case is the player or the coach, will have to give you, a notice for a period of time. If you fail to pay or to settle those overdue payables within the stipulated notice period, then FIFA will take action.
FIFA will take action. And Zita, you are breaking it down for us on the scoreboard. Take us through the past litigation.
I just want to talk about Adele. Actually, he was here in Kenya, but he's now the coach of Tanzanian national team. Actually, I just want to clarify where he was dismissed because he was banned by CAF when we were playing against Comoros, that is in Morocco, because he spit on the fourth official, and he was banned for 1 year. And when the next regime came in, that is Nick Mwenda regime in 2016, he was fired because by that time for 1 year he was banned. That is, I just want to make it clear so that when Arocho is saying about what he was saying, just he was banned first by FIFA for 1 year because of what he did. That is, he was fined, and then again after that he was suspended by our next regime, and then that made us pay him $109 million, but actually 109 million Kenya shillings Kenya shilling, that is 109 million Kenya shillings. So that is what the reason that behind his dismissal from the work. Let's talk about Bobby Williams. Bobby Williams was fired because of the poor results, because we lost. We drew 1-1 and lost against Congo here against actually Zambia here 2-1, and then Ukumbi. That is Ukumbi took over to be the coach of Kenya. So the first one, Adele, was fired because he was banned 1 year, and that was banned by CAF because of spitting to the fourth official. And the second one, that is Bobby Williams, was fired because of poor results, and that's when Ukumbi came in, just to clarify everything and what happened. And by that time we had to pay him almost 53 million shillings when he took us to FIFA. That is Bobby Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, Zita. And closely related is Kenya's race to host the 2027 AFCON. And of course, Sports CS Ababu Namwamba was last week busy handing over the facilities for renovation to the Kenya Defence